Hello and welcome back to another episode on the Hooked On SuperCoach channel. In today's video, it will be an EPL SuperCoach video. We'll be discussing the Gameweek 22 score and looking ahead to Gameweek 23 and what trades we are looking at doing. But without further ado, let's get stuck into today's video. So as you can see here on our little dashboard, we had a pretty good Gameweek 22 score there with a score of 124, which was actually a pretty decent score for the week. I ended up scoring 382nd highest overall, and with that score, it pushed me inside to the top 100. I'm now sitting at a season rank of 87 overall with a nice little 48 green arrow there. So let's see how we did it. Not the FPL, we'll get into that later. So as you can see there, we had a pretty good week in the EPL SuperCoach. Won most of the matchups, still managed to lose one as you do there. But yes, let's analyse how we went. Now before I get stuck into it, I just want to say, feel free to subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you guys anything and really helps with the channel there. And obviously with NRL SuperCoach now open, the content will be coming out soon for the preseason NRL footy stuff, so stay tuned and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you'll get notified whenever we put out a video there. So let's have a look at how we did in Game Week 22. So as I mentioned there, we had a pretty good week. We had a nice green arrow of 124, and let me just undo my changes. So how did we score that really? So kicking us off with the Arsenal defence, we had a 0-0 game there, and so Raya, Gabriel and Timber all got the clean sheet, which I was very happy with there. Declan Rice got 16 points in a 0-0 draw, so where his base stats are just incredible this year, and yeah, him and Bruno are really the midfielders that not only have the base but also the attacking stats, and I think they are by far and away the best midfielders to own there, Bruno and Declan Rice. But yeah, happy days with the Arsenal boys there. As you notice here, we had GW26 points sitting on the bench, and so I don't know if you guys remember, but I was looking at holding trades last week, and I was very keen to hold Dorgu just to see how he would if he would hold that left wing position, and I ended up trading last week, so I wanted to see how Dorgu would go, but I did have Gvardiol there on the bench in defence, and obviously Gvardiol is out for the season, but he was also the first game this week, and so just for whatever gut feeling, I thought Dorgu was going to do well this week, and so I ended up moving before the deadline Gvardiol onto Munoz, just in case there was an easy loop option for me there, and as it turns out to be, Dorgu got a goal. United kept a clean sheet against City and ended up walking away with 26 points there on the bench. So without shadow of a doubt, we changed to the fullback. We brought Munoz on so that we would get Dorgu's score as our AE, and yeah, I'm just very happy I ended up moving Gvardiol to Munoz there in the late stages of the week. Just had a gut feeling that Dorgu would do well, and he did. So yeah, look, very, very happy to get his score included in my score this week. And the other Man United player, Bruno Fernandes, is one of the other key reasons as to why we saw a very nice green arrow this week. Both of them are pod plays. I think Bruno is getting more and more popular now, and after Arsenal this week, he'll be pretty much in everyone's side. But Dorgu's a bit of a pod there. So yeah, super stoked to get him in and get his score this week there. So yeah, Bruno in midfield, got the assist, now playing in the central 10 role, and Bruno playing at cam, he is so good, and United looked like the best I've seen them play in years, really, and I really do think Bruno in that 10 position is a big reason for that. They're just so much more creative with Bruno in the 10 there, and yeah, look, if he ends up holding that 10 for the rest of the season, I very well think he might end up being the highest points scored despite missing a number of weeks there. I just think, yeah, he is really so good and will definitely be a captain option moving forward, but probably not this week with United coming up against the best defence in the league with Arsenal there. But yeah, look, Bruno Fernandes, bring him into your side and lock him in. Moving on to my third midfielder there, Philly Foden, another blank. So yeah, obviously the City boys didn't score, and Foden he really looked terrible and got subbed at half time. I'm recording this after the Champions League game, so Foden ended up breaking his wrist or his arm or something, or his hand. However, he could still play and ended up playing 90 minutes midweek for City along with Haaland, and City lost that Champions League game 3-1 to a bit of a nobody side. So City might be in a bit of trouble at the moment. However, they're coming up against Wolves this weekend, so just calm your farm, hold them, give them another week, and then we can reassess next week. I'll definitely be holding Haaland. However, Foden might be someone I am looking to move on, especially with his return. And I don't know if he's no longer nailed anymore. He hasn't been playing very good at all. They've obviously signed Semenyo and Cherki up top there who can play that position, and I think they've been playing it better than Phil Foden. So I don't know if he's just running out of juice or gas or something with Phil there. But yeah, look, it's been very, very disappointing, and I've actually moved him on in FPL. However, with SuperCoach having the more limited number of trades, I'm definitely looking to hold him this week. Cole Palmer, 15 points, kind of got bailed out with a penalty there, but look, very happy to have played him and got those points. And then Jared Bowen with 1 point sitting on my bench there. Yeah, look, he hasn't been great at all. He's certainly someone I'm looking to move on soon, but I am looking at actually playing him this week with a favourable fixture at home against Sunderland there. So again, with SuperCoach having such a limited number of trades, I'm really looking to hold fire and conserve as many trades as I can these days, and really only look to trade injured players or players that I just don't see myself buying again. And so Jared Bowen, I'm happy to hold for a couple more weeks, see if he can do anything. If not, I've got to move on. And he's also lost a lot of his value there, sitting at 6.4 million now. Moving on to the front line, obviously touched on Haaland before, but yeah, VC blank, so we ran with C Ekatike. And yeah, look, a bit disappointing. However, he didn't get outscored by Thiago this week, which is refreshing for owners like myself who sold Thiago to Ekatike. So yeah, look, 6 points, didn't score, had a decent chance, but yeah, look, it just didn't quite work out for Liverpool there. However, AFCON is now complete and Salah will be back in the side, and so maybe he's one to watch. Maybe he's found a bit of form in AFCON and might come back scoring for Liverpool there. But yeah, look, Ekatike, happy to hold. I don't think there's a reason to move him on, and so I'll just be holding him there. And then on the bench, Saka. So he was actually benched again this week. That's twice in 3 game weeks for Saka, so I ended up benching him. Scored 8 points, so he did pretty well off the bench there. But yeah, look, becoming quite frustrating there. He is Saka for Arsenal. So yeah, that was a bit of a review on sort of Game Week 22. Let's look forward to Game Week 23, what we're looking to do, and who everyone is buying and selling this week. So if we have a look at the top 10 traded out in the top 10%, we can see Phil Foden is number 1 there. And look, I completely get it. As I said, I've sold him in FPL. In SuperCoach, I'm definitely happy to hold him. Like, he's got Wolves this week. However, is he going to start? As I said, he played 90 minutes midweek for City, and he was an absolute bystander passenger. As again was he same as on the weekend for City against United. And yeah, I really don't know what's gone on with Phil Foden. I would urge to wait a week, and then move him on next week, because look, he could play himself into form. He's got Wolves this week. It's even though Wolves have been better recently, still a very good fixture to target. And so yeah, I would be holding off on that trade there. Number 2, Jared Bowen. As I mentioned earlier, I'd probably be looking to hold him for the next sort of 3 weeks. He's got a Couple decent fixtures coming up. Sunderland at home, Chelsea away, which is a hard fixture. However, they've then got Burnley, United, Bournemouth. So, look, bit of a mixed bag. It's Jared Bowen, it's West Ham. I don't hate the sell, however, I just don't have the trades to really be buying and selling players willy-nilly. Number 3, Cherky. Look, I think he's more of a hold than Foden. He's been playing better and scoring a lot better than Foden recently. And so, yeah, I think City are just, well, they're obviously in a bit of a down patch at the moment. However, it is Manchester City and it's Pep Guardiola, and I am sure that sooner rather than later they will be turning it around there. Number 4, Ødegaard. I would definitely recommend against this trade. Arsenal have got the double coming up in, well, potentially double coming up in Gameweek 26. I know he didn't score great. He's not really a base stat sort of player. He's more of that creative attacking player. However, as I mentioned there, yeah, look, Arsenal potentially have the Gameweek double in 26, and so you want as many Arsenal players as you can. And just purely because of that, I would be holding Ødegaard for at least Gameweek 26. Ruben Dias, yep, you can sell him, you can move him on. He is injured. Jack Grealish, yep, you can sell him, you can move him on. It's come out from Everton that he's got a broken bone or something in his foot and will be missing a couple of months. So yeah, you can definitely move him on. Szoboszlai, interesting one here. He missed the penalty on the weekend for Liverpool, and with Salah coming back, I think that just all but solidifies Salah as the Liverpool penalty taker. Liverpool got some decent fixtures coming up. However, yeah, look, I actually like Szoboszlai. However, he just hasn't been performing. I suppose Liverpool haven't been performing either, and so I get the sell. I think Szoboszlai is probably more of a sell than Foden or Bowen if you had him. Because yeah, look, he's just not doing much really. Is he for Liverpool? There, number 8, Gvardiol. Yep, easily you can move him on. He's out for the rest of the season there. Number 9, Van Dijk. Yeah, look, you can probably move him on. He hasn't done much, if at all, anything this year for SuperCoach EPL, and Liverpool just haven't been that defensive powerhouse. They're still up there for defences, however, they're just so unreliable. Like, I saw some funny stat today that Liverpool have kept clean sheets in the last 3 Champions League games, but have failed to do it against like Burnley, Wolves, and whoever else in the Prem there. So, yeah, look, you can sell him, but you can also very well hold him. Like, I don't think there's any rush to move him on. I'm certainly in no rush to move him on there. However, he certainly is an option to be sold. The number 10, Ekitike, probably the same as Virgil there. Look, you can hold him. I'm looking to hold him. I don't really see a reason to sell him. They've got a decent couple fixtures coming up, and he is the number 9 there for Liverpool. And so, if someone's going to score, hopefully it is Hugo Ekitike there. But yeah, look, he has been. I can't sugarcoat it or anything. He's been very, very disappointing. But yeah, look, with the fixtures coming up, and I would suggest against the trade of Ekitike to Thiago, and purely because of that, I think I'll be holding. So yeah, look, Bournemouth this week, which is a good fixture. Newcastle at home, alright fixture, go on my tunes. City away, that, who knows, at this point it might be a good fixture. It's actually at home there, and then yeah, Sutherland, Forest, West Ham, Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton, Fulham. So, bit of a mixed bag. They definitely have some really good fixtures coming up. So yeah, look, I'm looking to hold them. Completely get if you want to sell. However, I just don't see the reason or who you would be looking to bring in there. So yeah, that's the 10 most traded out. Let's see who they are looking to be brought in this week. And number 1, no doubt, Bruno Fernandes, and completely agree with this trade-in. I don't think there's any rush or urgency for you to do it this week. They've obviously got Arsenal. However, moving forward, you're going to have him in your side if you want to be competitive. He is just so good, and as I mentioned there, playing in the 10 role now for United is a lot more creative. So, might lack a little bit more in the base stats. However, what he lacks for now in the base stats, he will more than certainly make up. In the creative stats there. Number 2, Cole Palmer, and I probably actually disagree with this trade-in. I might be a bit more interested in Enzo Fernandes. So, obviously, Cole Palmer got the penalty on the weekend, 15 points. However, I don't think he's scored an open play goal for like 7 or 8 weeks. So, his points are really being dictated by that lucky sort of penalties. Not lucky, but being able to be the penalty taker for Chelsea. So, yeah, look, I like the trade-in. Chelsea have got some really good fixtures coming up between now and Gameweek 27. And so, yeah, I might throw Chalobah in there as well. I think Chalobah's a great buy. If you're selling a defender this week, yeah, I think Chalobah would be the number 1 target to go for. He's so consistent, he's super nailed, and he's got a bit of attacking threat off corners there. So, yeah, look, love that trade-in for Chalobah. Cole Palmer, I'm not sold. Like, I'm obviously an owner, but yeah, look, he's been a bit frustrating, and he's been a bit of a hard watch, and I think I just would prefer Enzo Fernandes. I think he just possesses a better Supercoach game. We'll knock out the other Chelsea players while we're on the topic of Chelsea players. Caicedo, look, he started the season off to a flyer. I had him. He's dropped back to earth. He's sitting at 5 million now, so you could go Bowen to Caicedo and make money, but I just don't like that trade-in. He doesn't have that attacking sort of threat that like your Bruno or Cole Palmers do have. He's a lot more defensive, more than your Declan Rice's. Like, I think Declan Rice is brilliant, but Caicedo just doesn't have quite that attacking threat, and he's just half the player that Declan Rice is. So yeah, look, I don't mind it as a pod. Caicedo, as I mentioned there, Chelsea have got some really nice fixtures coming up. So they've got Palace, West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, then it gets harder again. Arsenal, then Villa, Newcastle, Everton. So yeah, look, really good set of 5 fixtures coming up. So I think you should try and look to bring some Chelsea players in. However, yeah, not certain on Cole Palmer. Love the Chalobah trade. Love the Enzo Fernandes trade. Wouldn't go Caicedo. And Cucurella, I actually think he's a decent trade-in. I still think I probably would go Chalobah for nailedness. However, Cucurella's probably got a bit more attacking threat, and he's also a little bit cheaper, so a bit more value with him there. That covers up the Chelsea players. Moving on to a Crystal Palace player. So obviously Guehi is now at City, and with Gvardiol out for the rest of the season, I think Guehi will play great minutes moving forward and will pretty much be nailed for City. So I don't think there's a rush to bring him in this week. Obviously, they're versing Chelsea. However, moving forward, Forest, Brighton, Burnley, Wolves, United, Tottenham, they've got a pretty good run of fixtures. Oh, no. These are Palace's fixtures, not City's fixtures. City's fixtures are Wolves, Tottenham, Everton, Fulham, Newcastle, Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Palace. So they have a pretty good run over the next sort of 10 weeks. And I think he certainly is a trade option this week. If you want to take a punt and you're not sold on the Chelsea defence, I think Chelsea have a bit more of a shorter timeline. Whereas I think Guehi you could actually end up holding for the season with City. However, City aren't, as I've mentioned, in the best form at the moment. But yeah, look, I really don't mind the Guehi trade-in as an option there. I prefer him a lot more than James Tarkowski. Obviously, Everton kept the clean sheet this week at last game week, and he scored 15 points, and that's just what's going to happen when Everton keep a clean sheet. And yeah, he's just really good for base stats. Not very attacking, but really good for base stats. And so, look, if you want those consistent returns, if you want to play the matchups, if you want those clean sheet points, I think he's a good option. Like, I can't knock it at all. I own him in FPL, but just in Supercoach with the sort of higher points, especially for attacking returns, I just don't think he possesses the attacking threat there. I know he's very highly owned now, actually, in the top 1%. If we just want to have a quick look in the top 1%, let's see. Oh, it's bugging out. We'll give it a quick refresh, see if that will will fix it for us here. Ranked by the top 1% of players. Yeah, here we go. And yeah, look, he's actually in over 30% of teams now. So I'm kind of running against him and Bruno. Bruno, man, how good is he? I think he scored 11 points in base in a 0-0 draw. So he is someone that I kind of wish I did have, and someone I might make some plans to move to moving forward. However, the gap between Jared Bowen and Bruno is almost 8 million now, so I don't think it's worth the upgrade of 8 million. And so yeah, I love Bruno, obviously as a Newcastle fan, but he's just always in the right places this year for EPL, and yeah, he's been killing it. He's got great base stats, and he's got the attacking threat. He just always manages to be in the right spot at the right time. So look, I love him. I just wish I could get him into my side. Moving on now to the last player we'll discuss being brought in is Bryan Mbeumo. And this is someone that actually does interest me. So we saw on the weekend him get the start in the 9 for United, and he looked really good alongside Bruno there. Again, there's no rush to bring him in. They've got Arsenal this week. However, he could very well be an option moving forward, and so that's kind of why I'm a big fan of holding more and then just seeing how we go. So like, say for instance, Ekitike. He might get injured this weekend. That's an easy trade. Ekitike to Mbeumo next week. I think he is a better option than Thiago. At the moment, he's obviously not on pens. However, United do have some tasty fixtures coming up after Arsenal this week. They've got, in the next 5, they've got Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham, Everton and Palace. So a pretty good set of fixtures coming up for Mbeumo. And yeah, look, I think he's a very good option, and the best part is he's a pod. So for someone like myself who's now sitting in the top, obviously in the top 1%, but in the top 100 in 87th, I'm going to have to make some moves to kind of climb the ranks now, considering up the pointy end here, everyone is so sort of highly owned, and so if you want to sort of make those pod moves, you have to go for those pods. And like someone like Thiago, I could run against and go with Mbeumo. Of course, depending on Ekitike. I've got a funny feeling Ekitike returns this week against Bournemouth, and so yeah, I think he's going to be my captain, actually. And so let's have a look at how we are lining up now for Gameweek 23. So I'm looking at running a 2-5-3 this week. Raya in net, obviously, will be running both my Arsenal defenders, and I'll be benching Dorgu. Look, even though he's got great attacking threat, he's playing against Arsenal, who are the best defence in the league, and I'm just nowhere near as confident this week. And so I'm very happy to bench him, along with Van Dijk. I know they're versing Bournemouth, but Bournemouth are home, and Liverpool just can't keep clean sheets in the Prem. So, yeah, look, happy to bench him. And yeah, Munoz, not sure when he's back. I'm hoping soon, but geez, Palace look like a bit of turmoil. I know, obviously, Guehi has left, and so there's also talks of Arteta not wanting to be there and wanting to move on, and so who knows, Munoz could end up being the penalty taker. I do end up suspecting it will be a Sarr now that he's back from AFCON. However, we never know, and I've really got Munoz for the attacking threat, so hopefully this hasn't impacted it too much. And as long as Glasner stays as coach at Palace, I think he will be a fine pick. So it might have been a bit risky bringing him in last week for Gvardiol. However, it's worked out as I got Dorgu's points and his 26 points. So yeah, look, happy with that there. Now moving on to midfield. Yeah, look, I want to start all of them. Bruno, Rice, Foden, Palmer, Bowen. Foden, it's 1pm game, so I'll probably set an alarm, or 1am game, sorry. So I'll probably set an alarm Sunday morning just to see if he's in the starting lineup. If he's in the starting lineup, definitely play him. However, if he is benched, I might play a Van Dijk over him, just because, yeah, he really hasn't been great, and I'm just banking on the decent fixture of Wolves at home for City. So not as confident there. A player I am a bit more confident in is Cole Palmer, so he obviously got a massive rest this week, didn't play at all midweek, and so hopefully we see him playing 90 minutes against Palace on the weekend. And yeah, as I mentioned, Palace have been a bit chaotic at the moment, and so it could be a decent fixture for him there. And then Jared Bowen, look, as I said, been very disappointing. However, he's got Sunderland at home this week, so if he's ever going to return, it's going to be in the next couple of weeks, and so I'm just going to back him in there. Look, bit of the talisman there for West Ham, and let's just hope he does something. Moving on to the attacking line, our vice captain will be Haaland this week. Obviously, a great fixture against Wolves. I really hope I can loop him this week. I just want City to see the City we know and love, and Haaland he's been on a bit of a drought recently. He's looking a bit tired as well, and honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see Haaland benched this week. He's played so many minutes recently for not much, and he's looking a bit tired. So yeah, look, could very well be benched there. And who I'm looking at captaining this week, it's Ekitike. It didn't quite work out last week. Obviously, still scored more points than Haaland. But yeah, I think this fixture against Bournemouth is a good fixture to target. I think with Liverpool, Salah's back now, might make him a bit more creative, might have a bit more spring in their step. And I've really got to chase those points that I've lost out from having Ekitike over Thiago. So I feel like Ekitike really owes me. And so I'll be looking at captaining him this week, or Declan Rice / Saka there if I want to take a bit more of a safer option, so to speak. But yeah, look, as I mentioned, I'm now in the top 100. I'm looking to really accelerate that and keep climbing the ranks and going up. So might go a bit pod. However, yeah, look, with the trades, not really looking at moving anyone this week. I am interested in an Enzo or a Chalobah. However, I just don't think it's really worth doing the trades this week, considering I already have a pretty good team that I'm fielding for the week here. So yeah, that wraps up another Hooked On SuperCoach EPL video. Remember, don't forget to like the video, really boosts the content, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you legends in the next one. Cheers, guys.